For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome to Strat News Global and welcome to The Gist, a signature show on foreign affairs, security and technology. Hi, I'm Surya Gangadharan and welcome again to The Gist. This evening we are looking at the digital rupee. Now, some of you may believe that the digital rupee is already in existence, given the phenomenal amount of work that has gone into the UPI, the United Payment Interface. But we are talking of something much bigger here, something more tech, something a lot more future-driven. And I have with me Anil Padmanabhan, former editor of The Mint. He is currently running CapitalCalculus, well-read substack on the intersection of the economy and technology. Welcome, Anil. Glad to have you.
Happy to be here, Surya, and thank you for having me.
So it seems cash isn't king anymore, Anil. What does one make of this new digital rupee? Just what is it? Isn't it already in existence?
Surya, that's the perfect world where cash is no longer king. But yes, it was an emperor and now it is a king. So it is scaling down. Let's look at it that way. Actually, if we can take a step back and look at the evolution of the alternative to cash that has emerged. Let me rewind back to our 90s. I think many of us will remember standing in queue with tokens to get our cash payment from a teller, from a bank teller. And it would take us anywhere between 10 minutes to half an hour or an hour. If it depends how unlucky you are. And but now you had the ATM which came after that, and our visits to the banks declined gradually. They diminished, and the emergence of the old idea of RTGS, the bank-to-bank transfers that came in, helped us get rid of a lot of payments that we used to go to the bank for. We could do it directly from our internet, from our online accounts. And then happened the digital payments part. See, the big difference is that it was bank to bank, and this is like a digital currency payment. Not currency, it was a digital payment that happened, which could be unpacked in the sense that earlier the bank would carry out a lot of these transactions between the bank and the customer and the next bank. That in-between portion got outsourced to the host of payment companies, some of which have gone in for public issues. I think we know the story there. Now comes the new stage, which is where you came in, the idea of whether cash is king. We are now looking at a new evolution of the entire digital payment story. So we have moved from pure cash to a hybrid cash check, cash bank transfer, to cash digital, and including the bank transfer. Now introducing a fourth element, which is what you're referring to in this whole conversation around cryptocurrencies, digital rupee, etc. But that is the evolution, and it is a rapidly transforming scenario. Yes, cash is still dominant part, but anecdotally, look at our lives. I haven't handled cash excepting when I pay for a parking fee at a car park. That's the only time I use cash. Even my vegetable vendor is now on some digital payment format or the other.
So can we now the UPI system, as I know it, as I understand, it's about big payments. What about the ETBT other payments? You mentioned paying to the parking guy or sabzi wala and all. You mean to say that the infrastructure is going to expand to the point where even your guy you do your mochi work with on your shoes, even he will take payments in that kind of environment using that infrastructure?
Yes, Surya, that's already happening, by the way. But let's again take a step back. What does UPI rest on? UPI rests on what we call the tech stack. Okay, it's called the India tech stack, and this has been put together by a bunch of evangelists as well as the government of India and NPCI. These are the three broad entities who have pulled it together, and these evangelists out of Bangalore are called iSpirit. So they have created this India stack, which has 4 pillars. Okay, one is presenceless. That means you do not need to be physically present, like I gave you the bank example. So you can do a KYC, an eKYC using your Aadhaar. Okay. Yeah. Then you have paperless, which means The entire cash transaction is paperless. There's no cash. It's a monetary transaction, so which means it can be portable. So like an ATM, think of yours like an ATM. You can go to any ATM anywhere in India and draw, or abroad and draw your cash. Third, it is linked to this is the cashless part, which I said makes it, allows the portability function. And then finally, most important is consent. Okay, when you only if you give your consent, any vendor can operate your uh, digital wallet, no matter which one you use, using the UPI backbone. Now, the beauty of this is that it is scaled to handle your smallest charge, which can be as much as 10 rupees, to a big charge of, whatever, it can run into thousands of rupees. Okay, it depends on the cap that you have individually. So you're talking of a scale which covers the entire gamut of probably India's transactions, potentially, theoretically. It'll probably cover around, I mean, I don't want to put a number there, but it'll be a substantial portion. Particularly if you look at the UPI volume of transactions, they're going up very steeply, while the value is not going up so much, which obviously means that smaller transactions are happening. And just to close that conversation, that UPI's capacity is right now about 2 to 3 billion a month, but it is capable of doing 2 billion a day. So the UPI infrastructure can take any amount of load at this point of time. It'll obviously have to be scaled up as and when the Indian economy grows. So yes, to answer your question, you can do small transactions, you can do medium transactions, you can big transactions, and you can do it anywhere, anytime, any place, which is why it's interoperable. So it doesn't matter which wallet you use. As long as you've got a UPI backbone, I can transact with any wallet.
You were mentioning, we were talking about this earlier. You mentioned blockchain is going to be how this entire thing is going to be run. Now, please explain to us what is blockchain? How does it work in the current environment?
Okay. Surya, before we take that leap, the context for blockchain has come in the new era of the digital payments architecture, which is, we are talking of cryptocurrency, as well as what you call the digital rupee, or what is officially worldwide known as the CBDC, or central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
So you have a e-krona, which is the Swedish equivalent of a digital rupee, and now I believe there's a digital dollar on the way. So both these cryptocurrency as well as in eRupee rests on the technology that we call blockchain. Okay. Now, blockchain is, I mean, let's not get too overwhelmed by these phrases. It is nothing but a very transparent form of computation. So it is like the official word is distributional ledger, which is immutable. Now that's a lot of geeky stuff. So basically, all it is saying is that imagine if you and I had ledgers about transactions between us at this point of time, because it's a private network, nobody else can see it. But if we went on to an open digital blockchain network, where everybody involved in the transaction can see every bit of the transaction. Okay. So let's give an actual example to explain my point. Let's take MNREGA, India's biggest spender right now. It's 1 trillion a year. So 1 trillion a year is being sent out to, I think, about 14 crore families or 18 crore families, around in that range. I forget the exact number. So imagine you're connecting with so many bank accounts with so much of money. Right now, how are you doing it? You're doing it through, now you're shifted to digital transfers. Earlier, it was going through the old route, the cash is king route. So people weren't getting money, there were leakages, etc. So because India went to DBT in the last, scaled it up in the last, say, 5-6 years. It's been doing it since 2009, but it scaled it up in the last 4-5 years. The saving as of March last year was 1.7 trillion rupees, okay, on DBT, just because you went to DBT. I'm saying now you introduce blockchain, which takes transparency to another level. So which means if Anil was the laborer and Surya was the union government, earlier he would do a direct bank transfer to me. Yes, I used to get it, but there was a chance that somebody could have intervened somewhere in the system to delay it, etc. Say the bank delayed it, whatever.
Yeah.
But now everything is out in the open. So you know, I know, everybody knows. So transparency is restored, so which means sloth and corruption which have existed in public goods spending, whether it's building a road, whether it's MNREGA, whether it's building a new airport, all of that can be tackled if you move to blockchain at a governance level. But there are efficiencies also attached to it. It's not just about eking out corruption. That's a collateral gain. But there's a larger thing that blockchain is created for a new environment that we are running into, which is why it's important. Okay, blockchain in the old environment is still not so relevant because the blockchain is too expensive to use in small ticket transactions where a concept like UPI can cut circles around it because it's extremely efficient, it's extremely cost effective, and in real time. Blockchain can't match that, not at this point of time. Maybe when the technology develops further, it can, but not at this point of time. So, but it's a futuristic tech. So when I said transparency is very important, because the future, we are looking at everything that's going to be in a very transparent framework. So all this cloak and dagger business that happens now, that is where that's going to slowly start getting squeezed, which is where, to go back to your opening remark, cash will go from king to probably becoming a prince. Okay? But it's not that cash will go out. It will coexist, but its use will diminish as we move forward.
So blockchain is basically a software that you develop, isn't it?
Yes. It is a code. It's nothing but
It's
it's let's take it debit credit among multiple people on a real-time basis, on a very transparent framework. So you can see every transaction.
So you mentioned that it's transparent, but say some corporate transaction is happening, that will be visible only to those who are actually involved in it, isn't it?
Great question. In fact, go back to your earlier question on the rupee, digital rupee part.
Yeah.
See, when you do a private blockchain, that is what you create these new class of cryptocurrencies that we are seeing. A Bitcoin and range of coins are there, about 1400 coins are there. And then you have another one which has got this is not very fungible, okay, these Bitcoins, etc., which is why the value keeps climbing, speculating, very sharp. But there is something in which you can make it fungible by linking it to a bank account, which is called a stable coin, which comes to mimic a official currency, like Indian rupee or something like that. So these are the three levels at which the blockchain supports these three currencies. But if, like in RBI's case, let's take a cryptocurrency case, like you said, it is a closed loop, then others can't get access. It's only when it is public, which is why I said public ledger. So that public is defined. So your membership into that public can be based on various criteria, can be based on your goodwill, can be based on your credit history, can be based on your integrity quotient, can be based on you owning social tokens. So that entry into that privileged club for transparency is going to come at a cost. Not a cost meaning pecuniary, but as much as requiring you to measure up to that level of transparency.
Okay. And when we talk of the entire world is moving towards this, the US, Europe, is this what they're moving towards?
Oh, yes. I think we are having multiple speeds. So you had, you remember that country which declared Bitcoin as its currency. I'm forgetting. El Salvador. El Salvador declared its currency as Bitcoin, and it's almost on the verge of collapse because it's not so simple. Okay.
Yeah.
Because underlying all these new age currencies, which is why I said transparency, is trust. See, that is why it'll move at multiple speeds worldwide. So the Indian central bank is equivalent today in the world to the US Fed and the Swedish central bank anywhere, because over years they have built a reputation of trust and also now a newfound ability to walk technology or to work it to your advantage. So there is a certain institutional heritage that they bring to the table, which every central bank in the world does not have. So it's not going to be easy. Yes, the worldwide, the movement is happening, but it's like I said, it'll be multiple speeds. Some will make the moves earlier, the others will make it later. But yes, that is the eventual destination.
Mhm. So how does this impact the rupee? When the rupee is gone digital, and do other things change its value? The
Could, because you're talking about the speed of the transaction will go to almost the speed of light because you're real time, right?
yeah,
So, which means if you're conducting transactions at such speed, if you're doing a foreign exchange transaction, all these can impact. Yes, you're right. These are going to be new tools and new challenges for any central bank, which is why I said it's not like launching, say demonetization, launching a new set of notes. No, it's very, very complicated and
yeah,
complex.
yeah,
It rides on enormous technology and has to manage all these issues which the existing monetary policy in the world are still not even familiar with.
yeah.
So it is a long haul, very long haul.
Mhm, mhm,
I mean,
mhm,
I say long haul today, the way technology grows exponentially, that long haul can be a short haul. So,
mhm. But I'm looking at things like, say, the current value of the rupee, which is pegged to the gold and all that stuff. Do all these
no.
things change?
Yeah. It's not pegged to the gold any longer. The gold
I mean,
standard
yeah,
was abandoned way back. But
yeah. Sorry, yeah,
issue is that it's linked to a basket of currencies and it is mostly allowed to float. Okay.
yeah,
Now, the fixed currency model India abandoned in the 90s. So since then, it's some kind of partial float. Today, it is almost a convertible rupee, which means you
yeah.
can go and change any mostly convertible, not entirely for all capital account transactions, but yes. So the rupee is this is still an evolving game, in this whole, sorry, not game, I would say an evolving concept. So the
Mhm.
rupee's value, etc., will continue to be determined by factors like what are your export earnings, what are your remittances, what are your
Yeah.
demand for imports, what are your outgoes. So it's a demand supply. It will continue to be. But the manipulation part, which was very open up to the 90s, is no longer the fact. Today, the RBI enters the market to prevent the rupee from appreciating,
Yeah.
because there's so much inflow of dollars because Indian
Yeah.
stock markets are booming. So they have to enter to sterilize these currencies. Otherwise, the rupee will appreciate and will hurt your exports and all kinds of other attendant
Yeah.
risks to come in. So that's
Yeah.
why they intervene. They don't intervene on a fixed band that it has to be here, it has to be there. No,
Mhm.
it is linked to a larger macroeconomic balance. See, it
Mhm.
can't be moved in isolation. It depends on your growth, inflation. So these are all like, equilibrium model. So you
Mhm.
can't say this is the right value. Every value of the rupee is based on your economic growth and macroeconomic circumstance. So look back in the turn of this millennium, the value of the rupee was 30 to a dollar. Today it is somewhere between 70 to a dollar. So it's
Yeah.
not that the rupee depreciated in value. It's Indian economy has grown from say 200 billion, 400 billion economy and the turn of this millennium to a 3 trillion economy today. But your
Yeah.
rupee has depreciated. It is nothing. It is not
Yeah.
that people look at the binary causality. No,
Mhm.
it's far more nuanced and complex. And it's like looking at a temperature. It's a manifestation of something else. It's not
Mhm.
temperature is not your illness.
So when you introduce all these, this blockchain, and then you have a digital rupee and all, does it change the way, say, various other activities happen in this country? Like maybe elections and how they are held. Maybe financing of parties. I mean, does all that change? Does it come under scrutiny? Is it become more transparent?
Yeah. See, your last part, yes, that scrutiny will grow. More and more you go digital, scrutiny will grow. So, like you and I have nothing to hide, so I don't
Yeah.
care about scrutiny. But if
Yeah.
somebody has something to hide, they better be careful because it's already happened. Let's, like I said, roll back even 2 decades. The income
Hmm.
tax had a different way of approaching you, on looking at your transactions. They had a fixed matrix. Today, they watch every transaction. So if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
go to a wallet and conduct a big transaction, they are tracking you there. If you
Yeah.
go on a vacation somewhere and you spend and I know instances where people have posted on Facebook some fancy resort and then ended up not paying taxes. So these links have been found because somebody must have complained, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But issue is they are monitoring more and more. Your digital footprint is grown. So the income tax is now following your digital footprint. So it will become very difficult for you to conceal. Forget income tax. The GST, let's look at GST. It's an entirely digital footprint. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
cannot duck it. If you duck it, you are obviously you're beating the system, but you'll get caught sooner or later because these are all like now monitored. So yes, scrutiny will go up. To your question about how elections will be fought and won, or won and lost, that is a very different game because
Yeah. Yeah.
that happens. I don't think they operate in official currency at all. I mean,
Yeah.
that must be 1%, 5% of the total cost. So 95% is totally what we call in the black economy or the gray economy. I mean, nobody
Yeah.
has, that's cash. That's where cash is king. And probably cash will continue to be king unless you change the way politics is, like the governance system in companies. I think we could change that in corporate India and the corporate world everywhere. So why can't you change it in politics? Introduce governance systems, but the guys driving the changes are the political parties.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's their
So,
call.
would you presume that, assuming this, the whole digital rupee process goes forward, and it looks like it is going to go forward, your grey economy will diminish over time?
Oh, yes, yes. Definitely it will diminish, but it won't, it's not a either or. They
Yeah.
continue to coexist. They will coexist because there are certain transactions which you will engage in cash and things like that. But yes, they will definitely diminish. Like, say, we are already seeing now. But right now, part of the reason is that COVID, due to the shutdown of the economy, a lot of the informal economy which has vanished is actually shut down. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not that they became formal. Okay, so there's a difference between that. But yes, some of them did go formal. But eventually, formalization will come. Like if you are, let's take our Uber drivers for example. Say till Uber was launched, I don't know, a decade ago, and most of them wouldn't have even owned a bank account
Yeah.
because our payments are only through digital, through a wallet or a credit card. So they had to have a bank account because Uber would settle with us and settle
Yeah.
with them transactionally because Uber doesn't have offices. There's no place you're going to go and get cash paid to you.
Yeah.
So it didn't happen. So they became part of a formal economy. They suddenly owned a bank account, and because they owned a bank account, they had a credit history. So which means they became eligible for short-term loans.
Yeah.
So an Uber probably could be lending them, short-term loans based on their credit history with them. So you suddenly realize the advantages of a formal economy when they entered. But I have given you a very low-hanging fruit example. It is far more complex than this, but for argument's sake, I gave you an example of what formalization can mean.
So, last question, Anil. What is the timeline for this entire thing, with this digital rupee and so on?
Okay, first steps first. The union government is yet to pass the law in the cabinet. So it
Yeah.
has to first clear the cabinet. And the FM announced, I think, day before yesterday, that she is definitely bringing the new bill to parliament, which will create the guardrails on cryptocurrency. So most likely, you will not be allowed to create cryptocurrencies in India because that will be banned, which is what she's
Yeah.
talking about. But whether it will be retained as an asset class, which means you treat it like gold or silver or real
Taxable.
estate, she may allow that. I don't know. I'm just guessing. And once that is introduced in Parliament, it depends in this current state of Parliament whether it is kicked to a committee or whether it will be passed in all this melee. If it is passed, then it becomes a law, and that also includes the digital rupee because it's blockchain. See, what
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
common to all of them is blockchain. So let's see this as a legislation to define the guardrails for blockchain in this country, whether it is for cryptocurrency or whether it's for digital rupee or for any other application like MNREGA. So this law has to first pass parliament, then we can talk about all these steps. But I think maybe a year at latest, but you're definitely going to see things are going to happen. They're already happening. It depends on how quickly the law is in place.
So it would seem the future is already here, Anil. Great talking to you and great insight. Thanks very much. And I'm sure we can probably bring this up at some other later point when things really get going. Thanks very much, Anil.
Thank you, Surya.
And for all of you out there who've been following our shows, The Gist, keep coming to us with your comments, observations. Send us your questions. We love answering them. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much.